Hey guys, welcome back to the Unwracked Podcast. I'm Andrew Berry, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host Kyle Wilkes. Kyle, how you doing on this beautiful Tuesday?
I am doing lovely, Andrew. Got my training out of the way early. Most of my check-ins I've gotten through, most, a keyword. But yeah, just had a good weekend overall. Had some competitors compete, had somebody win overall in Classic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. How about you?
Let me ask you, because you said you got most of your check-ins complete. Do you have a timeline? Do you say, hey, I need your check-in by a certain time frame, or are you kind of like free fall, let it go all day?
People that are starting with me now, I try to make it a rule, 12 p.m. Eastern. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if someone sends me, I have people in different time zones, so sometimes it's all fucked up, but I don't hold it against them. But again, at the same time, like we're in prep season and there's things going on and it's not here, and then they send it at midnight, I'm not really dropping what I'm doing. I'll just kind of mention like, hey, things are good. I'm not sending a video back or anything like that, just based on things. And it depends on the time of the day. Sometimes I know you are a fan of Loom, so I'll use the Loom videos, but then there's times in which a certain part of the day I just like to type a little bit. Just easier for me. I work in the background or creamy's being made. Can't really make videos,
Yeah, I go back and forth. I kind of do looms until I get annoyed of hearing myself talk, and then I type for a while, and then it all just depends on the time of day. Like right now, the house we're living in is pretty small, so I won't do looms until 8 o'clock when Rachel gets up, and then I'll do them from like 8 until 2 or 3 when most of my work's done, and then I'll just do like short answers after that, because there's always like follow-up emails that come back in after you tell someone the plan, I'm like you, though. My cutoff is 11 a.m., because to me, and I think most of our clients are typically on the East Coast or the Midwest. Some are obviously in the West Coast. If you're in prep, and let's just say my cutoff's 11 a.m. Eastern, if you're an adult and you're not getting up by 8 a.m., to me that's a problem. Like, how are you getting your prep done? How are you getting to work on time? You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like that's a pretty decent grace period. But I'm pretty much done my work. Most of my work day. I still got some stragglers. But, I had a pretty good weekend with competitors, too. We had a guy won his class, and then Marissa Wu, she got 5th in Pro Bikini at the Rising Phoenix. Huh. And then I had 2 girls win wellness overalls, one in Kentucky, and then another in the Rising Phoenix Amateur. So it was a pretty good weekend. I'll take it,
Yeah, absolutely.
We both know they don't always turn out that way, right?
Yeah, not always, man, unfortunately, but, sometimes... it is a luck of the draw, but sometimes people just need more time to just get better.
Well, and I really appreciate, because you said that more than a few times, about instead of blowing smoke up someone's ass and telling them, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, you need me to peak you or whatever it is, It's like, no, you just need more time. The grass isn't always greener. You just need more time.
Yep.
I buy into that. So I want to start us off with a physique critique. I know most of our listeners are males, but we actually had a female send us a physique. I hope I don't botch your name, honey. Tren. And she, if I'm not mistaken, she's not from the U.S. I know she competed in the Philippines, I believe. Now, this woman is 18 years old, Kyle.
She's 18?
She's 18.
You sure?
I asked, and she said 18.
Wow.
Do you see many 18-year-old bikini athletes with this kind of development?
I don't see many 21, 25-year-olds with this kind of development.
Neither do I. I told her she's on the right path. But if you had to pick something apart on her, because obviously we're doing a critique, what do you see?
I'm big on like midsections. I feel like the midsection could be a little bit more dialed. Back pose. I think the way she's posing, she could kind of present her feet look pretty straight. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I have my girls like play with their feet. So maybe right now it looks like 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock if we're a clock, right, in terms of where the feet are. Sometimes I open them a little bit more. And then just more glute development, glute meat pretty much, I would say. And that's me nitpicking. Like this physique right here is pretty good, man. It's hard to say. Like I use the midsection just because I look at how sharp her hamstrings are, the quad separation on the side, the detail, and I'm like, okay, maybe the midsection could be a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, all right. I'll tell you this: if you got a girl like this that's joining nationals, North Americans, USA's, with some posing tweaks, she's got a high probability of winning a pro card that day. She's got the right development. I mean, again, and if I'm nitpicky, I'm going to start with her back shot. And I think she needs to downsize her arms a little bit. They're kind of sticking out to me just a little bit in this shot. And she definitely needs to work on her posing. She looks like she's leaning over too much. Like she's leaning forward. Yeah. She needs to arch just a little bit more. And then one thing I'm seeing is I think her quads are getting just a tad bit developed if we're seeing just a little too much. And her conditioning might be a little bit hard from the back. Like, I think on a pro level, this is the kind of conditioning right around where you're going to want to bring. So I think Tyler would tell you, we don't really want to see the adductors. We don't want to see the hamstrings as sharp. I think they'd rather see more of a full look versus a dialed-in, sharper look. But yeah, I think her knees are a little inverted, internally rotated. I think she needs to push them out just a little bit.
Right.
And if we're talking about physique development, upper outer glutes, from the back shot is really what I think she needs, and that's only going to help her her glutes in her front shot. Right. But yeah, I think a stellar physique. I mean, of course, I did the whole like, hey, if you don't have a coach, and you need some help, let me know.
Did you?
Oh, I mean, she seems like. I put it this way, okay. You're an 18-year-old kid. I think we're probably pretty intimidating guys. We coach a lot of big athletes. We've been in the game a long time. You're an 18-year-old young woman, and you're reaching out to one of us to do a physique critique. You probably got some stones. Like, you probably have a pretty good, mental faculty about you. So I'm like, okay, this she's got it figured out on some level. Maybe she just needs someone to dial her in a little bit more so she can turn pro and have a career. So, and I don't normally do that, but yeah. I was unusually impressed by
absolutely not.
By this athlete. I thought, yeah, she's really good. Okay. All right, well, we got some questions for today. Today we're doing a Q&A, and let me get these fired up for us. Starting off, here we go. All right, so this one's from Peter McNulty. Are there any downsides to dehydrating meats in the form of a healthy jerky for those who travel a lot? So Peter's one of my clients. I assume he's probably thinking, like, I don't really want to carry 20 pounds of chicken, but if I dehydrate my chicken down, it'll be, 7 to 8 pounds, and I'll still have the protein capacity. What do you think about that?
Seriously, sorry, I missed the beginning of the question. I thought it was like beef jerky or some shit.
I think he's talking about dehydrating, his own meats.
Interesting. And that's more so for flying purposes?
Yeah, he does travel a lot. He's got places in New Hampshire and Florida, and he owns gun shops in both, and he owns a gym up north too. And I know he goes back and forth to look at his businesses, and he's doing it while in prep too. He's doing nationals this year. So,
what's the primary reason? Is it to make traveling easier, less bad?
Yeah, I think it's to make it easier, I guess.
So, I mean, I can't say I recommend people changing things. And now, again, I'm always about being consistent, right? I'm sure you get a question. Sometimes people ask, hey, do I weigh this raw or cooked? Yeah. At the end of the day, meats and chicken, I are generally weighing cooked, not raw weight, because if I'm not someone that can sit and cook every single meal, then how the hell am I ever going to be able to be precise? Yeah. So in this case, if he's constantly weighing out his food a certain way, and it's cooked and then dehydrated, I guess that's fine. But would I want to yo-yo back and forth where 200 grams sometimes is from this 7-pound batch versus the 20-pound batch? I think you're probably going to get a little bit of difference. Again, at the end of the day, is it a significant amount when we're talking from a protein standpoint? Maybe not if it's a lean source, but if you're talking about, I don't know, flank steak, ribeye, shit like that, that could be a substantial difference in terms of fat. But what was your response, I guess?
I can't disagree with you. Personally, I want to challenge you, Peter. I want to see you eat dehydrated chicken and see if after the third piece you're ready to keep going. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's sustainable. Beef jerky, that's dry and kind of tastes like shit enough.
Yeah.
Turkey jerky, same thing. I couldn't imagine dehydrating fish or chicken or turkey. Like, sorry, this is not for me. Yeah. All right, so this one is from Song Hiran. How to stay safe on a test EQ 20-week plus cycle, what to worry about, essential supplements. Want me to start this one?
You can, yeah. Change it up.
Yeah, I mean, how to stay safe. I mean, I guess wear your seatbelt, wear your condoms. No, I mean, it's the same thing with any cycle, really, right? I mean, obviously dose and duration is going to be the mitigating factors. Are we talking like, something like 1,000 test, 800 EQ, I think that's more than fine to run for 20 weeks. Are we talking, 2 grams a test and 1.5 of EQ? I want to be getting your blood work done a little bit more frequently. But what to worry about? The same things you worry about with any cycle, blood viscosity, HDL and LDL cholesterol, HSCRP, liver enzymes, it's not like one drug in particular is going to elicit a massive different side effect on your labs than others. Like typically it's going to be based off the load, the gram load of your cycle. Would you disagree with that?
No, I think the duration, the dose is the devil. I think there are people that can obviously run very low doses for a significant amount of time, and then in this case, with EQ, I think in the grand scheme of things, equipoise has been around for a very long time, and recently, the last 5 years, I think it's been demonized a little bit, more so for hematocrit and hemoglobin and things of that nature. But any PED can raise those essentially, right? So I think my take on it is just paying attention to certain markers, having a baseline, and then just I think they had asked what supplements, right?
Yeah.
So that's where native kinase, stuff like that. I'll make sure is in improving blood viscosity. So maybe you're using like a Bayer's baby aspirin, something like that. So those are like my first two that come to mind, amongst other things. Obviously, paying attention to an iron panel and maybe taking out vitamin C if the person is storing too much iron or they need to chelate iron out. There are different things like IP6 that you put in.
Yeah. That brought up something that I had in my head. What are your thoughts? This is from one of my clients, Keith Wilden. He did really well at the Universe this year. What are your thoughts on Secretagogues? And I think he's probably talking about like ipamorelin and tesamorelin and sermorelin. What are your thoughts on those?
There's benefit to them. At the end of the day, a lot of them play off the general consensus of how can they mimic growth hormone to a degree, right? So I guess in the case of someone who really can't afford growth hormone, though, there's some generics that test very well that are cheaper, so I would probably go that route. I've used ipamorelin in the past, the CJC, no DAC. Obviously that's a little different, but I never really saw anything comparable to when I used growth hormone. I think testosterone, there's benefits there for more visceral fat, I'll consider it. And whether that's a milligram, 2 milligrams a night, 5 days a week, something like that. I think it's helpful. It moves the scale percentage points. Do I think it's absolutely pertinent to success? I can't say it's like on the top of my list above, PEDs, growth hormone, creatine, stuff like that.
Yeah. On the tesamorelin, I don't know. I don't hold water off any Secretagogues or growth hormone. But as soon as I add tesamorelin, I'm like looking at my calves and I'm like, where did this come from? I don't know if you've ever noticed it. Yeah, it's the one Secretagogue / GH similar agent that does that. And it's weird. It's similar. The only other thing that did that was MK677 with me, which is why I don't like that compound. I don't use it with hardly anybody unless they insist on using it. I do like the tesamorelin for the other, effects. The visceral fat, has an insulin sensitizing effect, unlike some of the other compounds. And I'll tell you, when I first started using peptides, probably back in 2000 and I think it was 2009, I definitely did see something, combining ipamorelin or GHRP with CJC, no DAC. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, man, it was a pain in the ass to have to inject 6 times a day.
That's the thing, yes.
And time your food out, right? You had to time it so that your insulin levels were really low, and you're completely fasted. And I remember don't try this at home. I wanted to cut down on some of that time, so I actually started IVing it instead of doing the intramuscular or sub-Q injections. I mean, bodybuilders are crazy. We're going to do anything to try to elicit a result, right? I'm trying to think of the other Secretagogues. I mean, I kind of call it the poor man's GH, but it's not even. It's not you got some really good generics out there now for a fraction of the cost, almost similar in cost to some of these Secretagogues. So, I think some of them serve a purpose, but if you got money for GH, go with GH.
No, and then also never go with the, I guess the traditional Secretagogues that are just powder based, over the counter shit. I don't think there's any merit to them. At all. So,
for sure. Let's see. Next question. What do you and Kyle think about Kratom? Is there an application for it, or is it too unsafe? It's a good question.
I don't like Kratom. More so, there's different strains. I know there's people out there that are in love with it, but at the end of the day, I've seen countless individuals get addicted. And I know they say, oh, maybe that's not the right, I don't know if it's a strain, exactly what plant it's derived from or how it works.
Dosing and, yeah.
Yeah, but I know at the end of the day, I've taken it before. I've taken too much of it to where I threw up instantly. And it's something that I constantly see people just become addicted to. They don't even realize it. They're just like, oh, this makes me feel great. And I'm like, yeah, so does, opioids, for sure. So I think it's a segue sometimes people use to get off opioids, perks, things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't find it beneficial for bodybuilding. I don't think it's smart to take. I know people mention, hey, they're able to focus better, helps them manage their days and their cognitive functioning. But I don't like it personally. How about you? You like it?
I generally agree with you. But I'll say this. When I gave myself mercury poisoning a couple years ago, and someone gave me, I think, one of those MIT 45 gels, right?
Yep.
They said, oh, try this, because we were going in and train legs, and I had headaches. I hadn't been sleeping because I don't know if you know anything about mercury poisoning, but you have no appetite. You can't sleep. You have insomnia. You just kind of ache all the time. Your joints hurt. And we were going in to train legs and wanted to have a good day. And he gave me half of one of those MIT 45 gel packs. I got to say, within 10 minutes, I felt really good, like too good. To the point where I'm like, if anything makes you feel this good that quickly, it's a drug, and it's got addictive properties.
Yeah.
And I've never been addicted to anything. I can say that very easily. I know some people, a lot of people in our sport are addicted to stuff. So I would just, as a word to the wise for people, if you haven't tried it before, don't. You're really not missing anything other than a possible, lifetime or a possible visit to the detox center and missing a week from work. I mean, I've had guys, they were complete dope sick when they had to quit it. They were throwing up, they were diarrhea, they couldn't get out of bed, and they didn't check in for a week, sometimes 2 weeks at a time, because it just tore their life apart. So, yeah, and we've seen a lot more people online talking about their experiences. So I think it's probably a good compound to stay away from.
Yeah, and I think just for the user, I guess the fans or the people, of what you'll see the benefits of Kratom that people push, at least from what I see. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but is the pain relief aspect, especially chronic lower back pain. People have mentioned, hey, when I take Kratom, I feel better. I can live my life a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. But then the anti-anxiety, the mood boost, again, it's pretty temporary, and I feel like it's dose dependent, and you need more and more and more each time you do it. And then an energy enhancement, like anything. Again, I rather take the caffeine, or if I need caffeine, I'll have a coffee, something like that. Otherwise, again, at any point, even too much caffeine is not really good for you, right? Because it's a stimulant. So anything that you can take in, and you notice that your heart rate is altered pretty quickly, significantly, and then all of a sudden 2 days later, it's not at the same dose. I don't think that's normal, right? So yeah. I always try to shy away from things like that, but I'm sure there are people out there that love Kratom and they'll praise it. But again, I don't think it's worth the risk from anecdotal evidence that I have and I constantly see, and I feel bad. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean that's the advice I give my clients that are asking about it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, really, at the end of the day, and why put yourself at risk of going down that rabbit hole? But you want to do a plan review?
Sure.
Let me pull it up.
Let's bring it up.
Let me pull it up. This is Evan Well. Let me just pull up some information on him real quick. So that's where he started his prep, okay? And then let me show you where he finished. This was his stage shots. Okay. Now, what's your initial impressions right off the bat? From where he started to where he finished? Like, what are you seeing on stage?
Show me where he started again.
You want me to pull that up? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And how long? What's the duration?
I'll give you that info in a minute. I think it was like
an
18, 20 weeks. Oh, shit. Did I show the same one? Yeah, there we go. That's his starting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's go back to his. Here we go. So that's where he finished up. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
any initial impressions at all?
Initial impressions, I mean, from where he started to where he got to, I think that's quite impressive. I don't feel like there was a ton of muscle that fell off. It was more just really body fat related. Obviously, being how I am when it comes to things, I look at people at the top level, so I'm always comparing to a degree with the best of the best. So conditioning stands out to me as not on par with where it needs to be. Now, again, if it's someone's first show, or they've been working at it for a while, prep was hectic or really hard, it's not bad by any means. It's a new starting point, a new base foundation to build from, and in the future you don't put on as much body fat, you have a better starting point. But ultimately it looks like not a lot of muscle came off, and on his frame itself it's promising. It just needs some poundage.
Yeah, that was my initial, I guess, and I think you and me, maybe more so than some coaches, we see a lot of, we'll say elite level physiques, and from the national level, professional level. So I always tell Rachel, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get burned on this. I'm showing her an amateur, and I'm like, oh my God, we're not even close to in shape, or we're not even this or that. And she's like, what are you talking about? The guy's probably going to win the show, right? And I think it's because we're kind of jaded sometimes. And I mean, you look at Nick's pictures every other day right now, right? It's kind of hard, no offense to any amateur, but it's kind of hard to look at an amateur after that and be like, oh yeah, man, you're really growing. You have full muscle development when you got a 280 pound in shape, Olympia, top Olympian athlete. So I say that with a big caveat. With this athlete, Evan, I probably would have said, hey, I want to find another show 4 weeks out, and I want to push you a little bit harder, and I want to get you in a little bit better condition. That would be my main feedback to him. But it looks like it was about an 18 or 20 week prep.
Okay.
16 week prep. 16 weeks. All right.
And how much body weight came off?
So he started at 222 and he came down to 176. So
Substantially.
So 46 pounds, give or take.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's pretty good. I mean,
in 16 weeks, that brings me back to when I did my first show. I kind of lost like 50 pounds in 16 weeks, and conditioning was okay. It wasn't superior. But you can only lose so much. At some point, your body's just like, okay, this is enough. Let me stop here, and not worth pushing.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder how he would have done if he was given more time to prep. Like, I wonder if he was still on the chase, if like his body was still dropping, or if it was just like him and coach, they were trying everything. Coach was trying refeeds. Coach was trying. We'll dive into this more as I get into the go over the rest of his stuff. But I just wonder if, like you just said, sometimes the body after 46 pounds, 50 pounds, has said, "Hey, I'm not dropping anything else," Yeah. But he started his prep with 500 tests, 300 Primo, 300 NPP, and 1 milligram of Arimidex every 4 days, 500 milligrams of L-carnitine pre-workout, and 4 units of growth hormone daily, and it was a generic. Any problems with that?
Again, I'm not a fan of purely generics off the rip sometimes. I guess I wouldn't have started him with MPP probably, being that where he was conditioning-wise, my main focus would have been on accelerating fat loss as quickly as possible. So whether that's putting in a burner like a clenbuterol, maybe using some peptides, which we can talk about as they're very popular. Those are the route I would go first. I wouldn't probably put an MPP. And then as far as the test dose being at 500, I think you mentioned ADEX is a whole milligram every 4 days. Yeah. I'd be interested to know where his estradiol was, because you had Primo in there too. So it seems like a little overkill at first. But again, perhaps he was 150, 200 estradiol and it needed to come down, and that was the reason for it. But yeah. What about you? How do you view the gear usage at that point, given his level of conditioning?
I'm going to pretend that this was a first or second or third, time competitor. I think it's at least his second show, because he did send me a picture, which I can try to find, from his first show. And he did put on some muscle in the off season. But again, with that level of body fat, I don't think I would have started with an NPP. Not that I think that steroids are fat burners, but I would have wanted something that's going to have increase little to no water accumulation on the body. I want to get after fat. I want to get after weight loss immediately. So I would have hit them right off the rip with clenbuterol. I probably would have just jumped to testosterone, Masteron, and I probably would have done a good 3 to 4 weeks of Trenbolone, low dose, maybe 120 milligrams a week or so total. Obviously hindsight is 2020. We're able to make those calls. But so let's jump to 12 weeks out. His coach pulled. He went to Mast E 150 milligrams. Looks like he kept the NPP in. He added 25 milligrams of Anavar daily. He added 300 milligrams of EQ. 300 milligrams of EQ weekly, and added 25 mics of Clen. That one's confusing.
So he took the Primo out, so he ran Primo for 4 weeks?
No, he just said he added. So
we have the Primo, and now we put Mast D in.
And we added in 300 EQ and added 25 VAR.
The VAR I'm indifferent with. You can add that at 12 out by all means. I think that's fine. The Clen I would have started with, because generally I'm not running Clen 12 weeks consecutively, probably. At least unless I'm putting in something that's going to help downregulate the beta receptors, probably. I'm definitely not running it 12 weeks.
Yeah.
I think the Equipoise, again, if I was going to use that, I probably would have put that in at 16 out and had it in for at least 10 weeks and then pull it at 6 out, maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
So continue with the cycle, I guess, because at 12 weeks, I'm interested to know.
Well, let me ask you, too. Do you think 300 milligrams of EQ does anything? For a guy who's getting on stage in a competitive, I'm not talking about a TRT, lifestyle bodybuilder. I'm talking about trying to get on stage, win a show bodybuilder. To me, because I would have done what you said. I would have probably put it in at 16 weeks out at a higher dose and ran it until 5-6 weeks out, pulled it.
Yeah, usually EQ, I feel like 400 is like a comfortable starting point. Usually that can go, you can go as high as you want to a degree.
Yeah.
But 400 I think is like the lowest I'd really start generally,
Yeah. All right, so 10 weeks out.
Like 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, all that same stuff in there. No mention of dropping the NPP, okay? Because I want to point out, up the VAR to 50 milligrams a day. Mm-hmm. The Mast was up to 300 milligrams for the week, and Tren was added in at 100 milligrams a week.
He got every drug.
Yeah, man, you're doing the whole alphabet.
Nice. That's good. Cool. I want to do that.
You got 2 nandrolones in there.
Again, with someone that had his body type looked more like an endomorph, puts on fat easy, I probably wouldn't be having both of them because his progesterone was priority a little bit higher, his prolactin was higher. I can imagine with the body fat being higher. So no caber in there. That's something to start to be mindful of. It seems like many drugs, but at little dosages, which at some point how do you control the environment a little bit? You have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Well, how do you know if something's not eliciting the result you want? How do you know which compound it is, or how do you know? I guess it's kind of the kitchen sink approach, really. I'll add a little bit of everything and hope that it adds up to something. To me, in prep, honestly, I want to try to make things as simple as possible, especially when it comes to gear. And I just personally, I wouldn't have NPP in with Tren, with EQ, with Masteron, with Primo, with Anavar, with testosterone, with. Are
you sure he didn't drop any of these things?
Okay, no, because then he goes at 8 weeks out, total sups.
Okay.
Test was 400 a week. Primo was 400 a week. Tren was 150 a week. Anavar's 50 a day. Winnie's 25 milligrams a day. T3 was added in at 25 mics. Glutathione. Oh, maybe glutathione at 300 milligrams, and then L-carnitine was bumped to 600. So the Winnie and the Anavar at 8 weeks out stand out to me.
I generally will take Anavar out, put Winnie in, or at least lower the dose of it. I'm not. Again, I think you have to consider a lot of things. When you put a lot of orals in, it's going to impact someone's gut health for sure.
Yep.
Now, maybe that coach put the glutathione in just to improve methylation and focus on the liver health. Again, because I presume there's health subs in addition to all these things, I hope to God.
But there's a whole list.
As far as this is at 8 weeks out, you said?
That was at 8 weeks out. So so the NPP was pulled, the
NPP 's
EQ was pulled.
Okay. Humidex is not in, you're saying. It got pulled? I feel like
It looks like it got pulled because it's not listed. Because then I see at 7 weeks out, Aromacin gets added in at 1 ml daily. And then Arimidex is added back in at, I would imagine, when someone says 1 ml, I think they're talking about 25 milligrams of Aromacin. Right. Arimidex was also added in at 1 milligram twice a week.
So he's using you said Aromacin was 25 mgs a day?
A day.
And his test is what?
His test is at 400 milligrams total.
I never met someone that aromatizes that much where they
Me neither.
If you said at least 2 weeks out, I can try to fathom why you would be trying to crush your estrogen so low.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, it seems like he's just plummeting his estrogen at 8 weeks out, and all that's going to do is stall fat loss.
Bingo. Thank you for saying that. Stall fat loss, and if you're doing your refeeds, you're gonna have a very hard time resynthesizing glycogen because it shuts down glycogen synthase. So, yeah, I think the AIs are overkill at this point.
Yeah.
And as Kyle mentioned, we don't try to crush estrogen or drive it down until the last 10, 12 days. We want you to be in a as normal a hormonal environment with estrogen as possible. Not high, not too low, and then we start to bring it down. Okay.
Keep going with the fun.
Yeah, so the Mast was increased to 500 at 7 weeks out. I mean, there's a lot of changes. This guy made a change at 6.5 weeks out, and then another change at 6 weeks out, and then another change at 5 weeks out. We got a lot of changes here, so buckle up, okay?
I'm trying to write them down. I got my pen.
Okay, so 6.5 weeks out, 50 mics of Clen. And as far as PEDs, 400 test, 500 Mast, 300 Tren, 400 Primo, okay? 50 Anavar, 50 Winnie per day, 4 units of growth, 25 T3 still. I mean...
what... Not really much change. The Mast went up. The Tren doubled, I think. It was 150. No,
Tren doubled. Yeah, Tren doubled.
And the Primo's still hanging there. So again, I imagine the EIs are still there. His estrogen is definitely in the shitter if it was 2 weeks of this already.
I mean, you got Mast, you got Primo in there, you got a milligram or 25 mgs of Aromacin and 2 milligrams of Arimidex per week.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm wondering if this is... The coach was reading things as your estrogen's high, maybe not understanding what some of the PEDs do on top of what crushing your estrogen does to fat loss. I'm speculating.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. I'm being nice. All right, 6 weeks out, GH was cut in half to 2 units. Test was pulled to 350. All right.
350.
At 5 weeks out, test was pulled to 300. Clen was up to 75. So here's another thing. And you mentioned this because I didn't think this was going to be the case because I haven't really looked at this. He's been on Clen continuously from 12 weeks out till now, going from 25 to 50 to 75. To me, the Clen's not really doing anything at this point. Your receptors are kind of shot at. You're just being on it continuously. I mean, how many days do you like to take a break in between your Clen cycles, would you say, on average?
So it depends. If I start at 16 out, maybe I'll run to 12 out, take 4 weeks off, put it back in. There are some people that just say on their schedule, if they're very sensitive, I can do like 5 days on, 2 days off. In other instances, especially with peptides being around now, I'll keep Clen pretty low. I'll put it in at 20, and then I'll go to 40, every week. I kind of go by their feedback. If they're telling me that they're experiencing, their heart rate is higher off the bat, they feel warmer, they're shaky, they feel like they're anxious, I'm not going to keep ramping it up because it's not going to do anything, right? It actually impacts, at least from what I've seen and hear, if you're taking Clen close to a workout, for example, maybe you're training early in the morning, that's a lot for your body. Yeah. If you're having caffeine and the other stimulants, and then you're taking the Clen on top of your pre-workout, like your heart rate in between sets is never going to fucking come down. So that's not productive either, because now your performance in the gym, your strength, is going to be compromised. You're going to lose muscle, right?
The other thing is, especially in that situation you mentioned, there's a distinct feeling when you're training a set and trying to go to failure with Clen in your system. Like the muscles just don't, like you might have the strength to do it. It's just a weird type of fatigue. I don't know how else to describe it. A weird type of fatigue and almost a burny feeling that's a little different than a regular contraction. You get that? Do you feel that when I'm talking about?
In terms of when you're taking it?
Yeah, like let's say you're on 40 or 60 mics of Clen and you're training with weights, within 2 hours of taking it. My feeling was it was always a different type of contraction. It's like I could do it, okay. It just felt different. It felt weird. I don't know how else to describe it.
I can't say personally because I feel like for me, I take a lot of things and not really notice specifically.
Yeah.
But from a cramping standpoint, a duller contraction I think I can relate to in terms of how that makes me feel. But also, I'm thinking of when my heart rate is elevated, I'm out of breath a lot quicker. I'm definitely just overall more fatigued because I feel like my body's on overdrive trying to keep up with everything, and then I just crash.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Well, I run Clen. I don't have a particular system. It's kind of like I'll throw it in. I'll titrate it up when I feel like it's not doing anything, if we're not dropping and we're not getting tighter. And then it's almost like like a sixth sense where I'm like, okay, we're pulling it out for 7, 10, 12 days. And then we'll reintroduce it at a low dose again, 20, 40 mics, and kind of continue going up again. I always see some people have like these 2 days on, 1 day off schedules. Or, yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, the reasons I would ever do 5 days on, 2 days off is generally schedule related for people. Like, let's just they're shift workers and they have to get a lot of sleep. Don't take Clen people and try to go to sleep an hour later. It's not going to happen if it's real. But yeah, the schedule with clinic, again, I don't know. I've seen people also, let's just say they start at 40, then they go to 60, 80, 100, 120, be higher, which I think 120 should cap it. And then they start going down. What the fuck's
Go back down. I've never seen that.
I've seen the pyramid approach. I'm just like, hey, what are you doing?
So if you're not getting anything out of 120, what makes you think you're going to get something out of 60 and then 40?
Because I think the reality is, like, there is a little bit of a rebound, at least that I've noticed with Clen. Let's just say you're on a higher dose and then you pull it out. You might notice a little bit of water retention, things of that nature. But it's not, you don't need to wean off Clen. It's not not testosterone where you're trying to kind of bring it down to a baseline and then, you're going to put HCG or enclomafeed in and you want to test out of the system or something like that. You just pull it.
Just pull it. You're going to get your receptors upregulated a lot faster so you can introduce it again. But, all right, so at 4 weeks out, they pulled the test to 250. That was the only change. They're still on 500 Mast, 300 Tren, 400 Primo, 50 mgs of Anavar and Winnie per day. Okay?
And T3 is 25, right?
T3 has been 25, yeah. Okay. At 2 weeks out, there's an introduction of a baby aspirin nightly. Kind of a weird thing of note, I guess.
Okay.
Clen was at 80 mics fasted, 250 test, 500 Masteron, 300 Tren, 400 Primo, 50 Winstrol, and 10 milligrams of Halo. So it looks like they dropped the Anavar. No, sorry, pulled the Anavar. And then at 1.75 weeks out, so 10 days or so, Halo was up to 20. And then it's a little hard for me to read because it's kind of disjointed, but
It's okay.
We'll just jump to the last week. Last shot of Tren and Mast would be Wednesday before the show. Primo was pulled the final week. It doesn't say that test was pulled, but I'm assuming it was pulled. So, and he says here, once we got pretty far down in prep, around the 6 week out mark, we would carb cycle. Oh, we're talking about diet now. We would carb cycle and do a refeed based upon look. It would be 3 days or up to even 6 days of a low on a low day before pushing a high day. Only twice on prep did we do a high day with a cheat meal, even though it was for the high day. Okay. I was ordered a chicken sandwich and fries from Chick-fil-A. Are you from that camp? Is it like that band name, Hanson or something? Or, but all other high days were driven by regular bodybuilding food. Okay.
So, I guess just finishing out with PED protocol.
Yeah.
What stands out to you or that you don't like?
It's a little disjointed. I think I could go into ChatGPT and type cycle for a light heavyweight bodybuilder 16 weeks out, and it might give me a better, more in line with what I would say, probably testosterone, an anabolic, and then at 10 weeks out, testosterone, Masteron, 6 weeks out, add some Tren, 5 weeks out, layer in some orals, 2 weeks out, add some Halo, bump the AIs up a little bit, voila,
I would agree. I think there's I'm not sure where the mind. Again, I always try to. Everyone can have their own approach, but if it doesn't make sense on paper to me, or it's not supported by any type of actual research or data, it's wrong. So you can justify why you did it, and you just want to take a drug, but it's wrong. Why was Primo in at a week out? Why are you pulling it? It's not going to be out of your system if there's water retention from it, so you might as well have just kept it in.
Yeah.
Everything else was fine. The Halo, I'm not opposed to. If you put it in, at least take the Anavar out. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Just seemed a little disjointed. Just a little, like,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Exactly.
It makes sense why he looks like that.
Yeah, and that's not a dig to the athlete. It sounds like he did exactly what his coach asked him to do. But yeah, I agree. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to read all of them, but the health supplements are right in line with stuff that we would absolutely recommend. DK, citrus bergamot, omegas, vitamin C, liver support, ubiquinol, B12, kidney support, zinc, daily greens, berberine, to name a few. Okay. Some digestive health supplements, magnesium, etc. But okay. Cardio at 16 weeks out started at 6 days a week at 40 minutes of stairs right off the bat. His training split was, he was 5 days a week, push, pull, legs, rest, push, pull, rest, and then repeat.
Okay.
I'm not going to read his whole meal plan. There's a lot. He put a lot of effort into this. But I'll say this. Let me find some points that I can bring up. Okay, at 8 weeks out, his cardio was pushed to 7 days at 60 minutes. What do you think about? Okay, so if his first cardio move was 6 times 40 at 16 weeks out, the next cardio move was, what did I just say? 6 days a week, 7 days a week times 60. What do you think about that?
Why? Why such an increase? Like, I get 5 minutes, let's just say 6 times 40 was baseline. I get maybe 5 minutes, might not do a lot for people. Cool. Assuming it's just low intensity steady state cardio, otherwise if you added 5 minutes of intervals, that's going to do something. But regardless, let's just say 6 times 40, go to 6 times 50. Why go to 7 times 60? That's like a really big jump. So I'd hope that he probably didn't have any weight loss somehow from 16 until whenever that was.
The bigger thing I'm thinking of, though, is why'd you start so high at 6 times 40? Like, you're already taking up, 4/6 of an hour out of someone's day, because I do take that into account. Like, people have lives, they got work, they got relationships, they have things they got to do. And yes, at the end of the day, it takes what it takes to get in shape. But why not start with something like, 3 times 30 and see what you get out of that? And then you can always titrate up a little bit from there in the coming weeks. Yeah. You could also, I do this, is I might start with a steady state, and then, after 4 weeks, I might do 1 to 2 weeks of HIIT to change the energy systems being used, because the more we use one energy system, the more trained we're going to get to it, right? Yeah. And we need to, the only thing we can do is add more time. So I try to limit the amount of time we have to add by layering in HIIT cardio, back to steady state, intervals, all different types of energy systems. Now, what's interesting is that 4 weeks out, his cardio was at 35 minutes of stairs, and his steps were dropped from 12K at 8 weeks out to 9K. So he went backwards in terms of the output.
So it seems like maybe they were trying to rest his body.
Pull back a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But it sounded like it was more of a longer term thing. Like, if you run into a wall, right? You got an athlete, you run into a wall. What do you typically do? Like, if you want to pull him back, is it going to be a multi-week thing, or are you like, all right, give me your scenario?
So let's just say we know the person's. They've been mentioning, hey, my training fatigue's high, my legs are really heavy, my sleep is mediocre. I will then take, let's just say we're going into a weekend, I'll probably say, you know what, Friday, Saturday, let's pull the cardio. Probably give them food Friday, Saturday. And in some instances, I'll give them food, I'll feed them up and have them not even train, right? If I really think they're in the hole. When I do that, generally you'll start to get an idea of how in the hole they might have been, to where maybe you give them a higher day on Friday. Let's just say you gave them the day off and you gave them food and they rested, so their activity levels were much lower, and then they lose weight. Hey, this person was definitely in a hole. Like, good thing you gave them some food. Yeah. So that's like my approach. The longer term approach, let's just say they do gain a lot of weight after that first day, right? Because that can happen as well. Usually, maybe the body's like super stressed. So let's just say it's a ton of water. That's when going into the following week, maybe I'm titrating down. I hate using the word deload, but I'm titrating down training volume, giving them a little bit more rest days. Cardio, perhaps I like doing a lot of interval-based cardio, pushing people, maximizing it, taking it serious. Mm-hmm. I'll pull that out, or I'll change the type of cardio. So in this gentleman's case, starting with the Stairmaster, I love the Stairmaster. It's the hardest type of cardio other than, intervals on a spin bike or some shit. Yeah. But if you give me the Stairmaster versus the treadmill, 60 minutes, one is definitely going to be a lot harder than the other. Yeah. So I'll change the type of cardio as well. So that's kind of like my long-winded answer in terms of how I will. But if you can simplify it, what do you do? So let's just say, the person's not responding very well. You made diet changes. Let's just assume the drugs are the drugs, and they're not getting any fat loss. What is your thought process going into a Friday?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I'm going to say, okay, Saturday, Sunday, no cardio, preferably no training. I'm going to add maybe as much as 40% calories in addition to their normal diet, probably in the form of carbohydrates. I'm going to encourage them to do things like Epsom salt baths, cryotherapy, ice baths, massage, things that are going to be helping to repair their adrenals, right? Lower their sympathetic stress, increase their parasympathetic tone. And then we're going to reassess on Monday. And then based off what I see, do we need to do a little bit more of that? Is it working? Okay, let's keep going until it stops working, and then we can switch back to pushing again. Or if it didn't work, it's telling me we probably need to push harder. And your body's just saying, hey, no, like it's at a sticking point, and the only way is through. So,
yeah. No, I had an instance, one of the shows I did this year, actually had a competitor doing the same show, and that wasn't the intended target show. We had to move it back. And he was a gentleman that was pushing harder, doing all the right things. His body just wasn't responding. So basically, I think it was like a Thursday or something like that. I just said, look, man, we got to push the show back. We're not in the shape we need to be in to where I know you'd be happy and proud to present it, nor would I. So next 4 days, have a cheat meal tonight, eat tomorrow. I'm going to give you higher food over the weekend. Let's see where you're at on Tuesday, and go from there. And then once we did that, that reset everything. His metabolism was pumping. He was in a better mental spot, right? He understood, and everything worked perfectly, seamlessly. Right. Now, again, it's not always the case, as you mentioned. Sometimes you give someone some food or rest, and they don't get any better. They actually hold the weight. So then you're just like, okay, maybe this person just needs to toughen up a bit, or maybe there's some other, we need to see some lab work. Maybe there's a problem. Yeah,
there's some other factor. Yeah. For sure. Evan had some questions for us. With having no more room to improve and moving to the light heavies, what are things I need to focus on to win a show like this? I'll tell you right now, conditioning. I think you needed another 3 to 4 weeks to get your glutes, your lower back, quad striations, delt striations, the kind of condition that a typical show winner is going to be in. I think you needed 3 or 4 more weeks. What did you think in terms of what he needs to improve on?
That might be conservative, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Maybe up to 6. Okay.
Yeah, of true dieting. That's the main thing. I think get into the right shape, and then 99% of bodybuilders, you need more muscle. So I'm not going to be a negative Nancy. I know there was a comment someone said that I'm mean, or I always say people need muscle. I'm just being honest. 99% of us need more muscle. That's bodybuilding. That's what the hell we're doing.
You've said this about yourself 100 times too, so it's not like you're having this holier than thou attitude about it.
Yeah, so I think conditioning for him, that's what will set him apart. And I've seen people that are bigger have more muscle, but because they're in condition that he's in, and then that person is shredded, they're going to win. You don't have to be the biggest person on stage. You need to have a good amount of muscle and be in the right condition. That's going to 9 times out of 10 win a show.
Yeah. He wants to know what he can do differently to win next time. And I'm going to be honest, he's probably 3 to 4 years away from having a physique where he could win if he bodybuilds hard. It just comes down to the level of tissue on your body and the conditioning that Kyle mentioned. Well, here's a reason. Here's an example. You're never going to see a lightweight win overall at a bodybuilding show. You're rarely going to see a middleweight win overall at a bodybuilding show. The last one I can think of was my buddy Justin Randall back in 2016. Sometimes light heavy wins, but typically the guys with muscle, heavyweights and super heavyweights, with all things being equal, talking conditioning, those guys are going to win shows. It's just the body likes, or the brain likes, what's bigger on stage. You know, if it's in good condition and the symmetry is good enough. So I just like to be honest with people that I don't think there's much you can do to try to win your next show unless your next show is in 4 to 5 years. And I don't mean that as a negative Nancy. I don't mean that to put you down. It's just it takes time to build a quality physique to win show. How old were you when you won your first show, Kyle?
1 overall.
Yeah, your first overall.
A month ago.
Oh shit! Okay, so
So,
okay, this is my fucking point right here. This is a great point because Kyle was already a great bodybuilder. He'd done national level shows. He had a complete physique. It took him till, how old are you?
29.
You're only 29?
33.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jesus Christ. So 33 to win his first overall, and then he won another one right after that. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's developed the level of tissue that he needs and brought the conditioning level he needed. I was 30. Shit, I was older than you, man. I was like 30, 34, 35 when I won my first overall.
Yeah, I think, and also, Evan, right? Again, I hope you're listening to this. We talked about it the whole damn time. You're doing bodybuilding, right? So it's a division that is primarily muscle is going to be a top criteria. You're not going to get away with shape. Or maybe in another division, you can have no legs and have a chiseled midsection and do very well, present yourself with good aura, and people like the charisma. You're not going to get away with that in bodybuilding. And then obviously, at the end of the day, I know we're talking about winning a show. There are regional shows every weekend. So if you walk into a show, sometimes you're going to have a freak that shows up and you're not beating them no matter how good you could be or are. And then there are shows where people say they're nationally qualified, they won, that'll be at nationals. And you kind of scratch your head and you're like, hey, who did you beat? How did you get here?
Yeah.
Right? You didn't compete against anyone. So don't always tie your status of how good you can be to a placing. Just keep that in mind. I think if you keep working hard, you're consistent, the next time you get up to, I forgot the weight he started at, are you a better version of yourself at that weight? If so, fantastic. If not, pivot, use a different coach, do some different thing because it ain't working.
You know, to your point of freaks showing up, you know, I brought a guy, a heavyweight, really good heavyweight in to 2016 Montanari Brothers Connecticut show, right? And he looked like the guy that was going to win a show until we looked over, and there was this Hispanic-looking gentleman sitting down, didn't warm up one bit, didn't pump up, didn't do anything. I don't even think he put glaze on, right? As soon as they lined up the heavyweights, he takes off his sweatshirt, and this guy, he's under 225 because he's a heavyweight, and he looked like he was about 255 in shape. And that was Justin Luis Rodriguez, okay? And I looked at my buddy, and I'm like, hey, congratulations on your conditioning and everything, but congrats on second place today. And he was so pissed off and dejected, but I'm like, dude, this guy's going to be a pro at the end of this year. And of course, he went and won the North Americans a few months later. So you just never know what freak just needs to show up at a show to qualify and then go and get the job done. So, yeah, Evan, thanks for your submission. I think you just need to keep bodybuilding. And, you know, I would maybe, well, I don't want to give too much advice, but I do question some of the PED choices, the cycle overall. I would try to simplify things a little bit. I think that's what I would leave it there. Kyle, do you got some other questions?
I do. So let's do some, I'd like to say rapid fire, but some of the questions, they just require long-winded answers. So let's start with this one. Marcus.Joyner asks, how to fix high fasted glucose levels. I'm taking 2 IUs of growth hormone every day. My levels are 118 fasted.
Well, I'm going to say I don't think the 2 units of growth hormone are necessarily what's causing the high blood sugar. You know, if he was using 10, 12 units a day, I'd say, hey, pull the growth hormone for a week. Let's see what happens. Right. To me, I would look at the diet first. Are you just eating too much? Are you eating too many carbohydrates? Next question would be is where's your stress levels? You know, do you have high systemic stress? Is your cortisol through the roof? Are you dumping glucose constantly from your liver due to the stress response? Yeah, what do you think?
One other facet, I think sometimes people test glucose upon waking, right? You know, that Dawn's effect to where you got to drink a liter of water, people, wait 10 minutes. And if you don't believe me, wake up tomorrow morning, prick your finger, then drink a liter of water, 10 minutes later, test it, and you tell me if it's the same. Here's a gift card. All right, give me a gift card, whatever supplement you want. But it won't be. It's going to go down. So 118 is pretty high for sure. So other than the diet, one thing I don't think you mentioned, or if you did, I'm sorry, repeating it, but do some cardio. do fasted cardio. That is always going to help. So I'm a very big proponent of doing that to also help facilitate better glucose levels. Mm-hmm. Next question. Actually, this ties in. This is from avis.lifts. Do you ever use Berberine? If so, how and when?
So I see Berberine as a multifaceted supplement. You know, it's good for blood sugar management. It's good for HDL cholesterol to an extent. And it's also a decent low-level anti-aging supplement. So I do include it, at least I would say almost everybody who's north of, say, 35, it's going to be in their plans, you know, typically. If you're younger than that, you know, like I'm not throwing it in my first, if I got a 22-year-old kid, I'm not throwing it in his plan right out the gate, you know. But it's typically my older, and I say older being 35 plus, 30 plus, you know. And how do I use it? You know, I'll probably start with 500 milligrams twice a day. And I'll probably, and I recommend the root, not the stem, because that's where the more active alkaloids are. How about you?
Exactly what you're saying. So the premises of why you would use it, right? The blood sugar control benefit you can get from it. I guess the fat loss, metabolic health standpoint, cardiovascular health, gut health. As far as most GDAs that people take, glucose disposal agents, do have some berberine in them. I'd say most of them. But yeah, I mean, it's something you can put in. It's not going to be negatively impacting you, but it's also not going to be the reason why you're at 120 and now you're going to be at 80, right? So it just helps. So it's something I would put in. It's a little few percentage points, but hey, all the percentage points add up at the end of the day.
It's kind of like I'm reminded of when people are like, I'm going to take 1,000 milligrams of berberine with every meal when I carb up and think it's acting like insulin, or the trend a couple years ago of using metformin, which is similar in action to berberine, and using that during their carb ups during the shows, and then all these guys had diarrhea and bloated midsections.
Agreed. Reading this next question here. I get this question a lot. It's a very simple one. This one's from Talix95. Ever experience acne while on gear? If so, how do you get rid of it?
How do you get rid of it?
So generally speaking, let's just assume the gear is not compromised, okay? You're getting it from a reputable source. Yeah. Usually I look into gut health. A lot of the times I see people that have acne flare-ups or issues. It's directly related to poor, lipid profiles. Thyroid's a little off. They're just eating a lot of shit and junk. Most of us can't get away with that kind of stuff, right? And then also consider, from a PED standpoint, if you are that's going to increase your natural oil production. Essentially, if you're taking something like equipoise, I wouldn't say that's going to be a good candidate. You're not going to be a good candidate to use such a compound because you're going to see the oil production increase. You're going to get more acne.
I don't know about you. I only ever saw PED related acne when coming off gear. Like, it was very rarely, maybe in my younger years when I was leveling and layering the gear up, but then I could use anything and I would not have any acne. But then it was always 2 or 3 weeks after I stopped the cycle, blood levels were coming back down to normal. So what I'm trying to say is, I think it's the levels of androgens in your body changing for a lot of people, provided it's not a GI or immune system related issue. I always saw it when I was coming back down off the gear. And when I say saw it, it was like one pimple, Yeah. I got to say I'm blessed, because I know some people, guys and girls, I feel very bad, where, they're going on cycle and it's like, whoa, what happened to your skin,
Yeah, no, definitely. I see it both in male and females, I think. I'm not saying when they're at peak levels and then they go, not cold turkey, but they come off, that's when generally things will flare up. And you try to coach them through it, right? You just say, look, unless it's getting significantly bad, then there's a problem. Usually you look into liver health and stuff like that to see, okay, maybe we're not detoxing correctly, we're not clearing things out. Yeah. But I think it's, like anything, it takes time for homeostasis. Things will regulate. And just keep that in mind in the future with how the duration. That's why we always kind of point to the dosage and then the duration as well. Mm-hmm. Next one here. This is from Justin. What's your take on blood pressure medications if you need more than just an A or B?
Well, I want to try to use as little as possible. And I'm thinking back to like a conversation I had on another podcast with a well-known bodybuilder, and he said, and I'm going to try to quote it, well, my blood pressure is great. I'm really healthy. I mean, I only have to use 3 medications to manage it. And a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, only have to use 3 medications and 16 different supplements to manage your blood pressure. To me, it's like, okay, look at the PEDs you're using, because there is some differentiation between the PEDs you're using and the response when it comes to blood pressure. Is it the total dose of gear you're using, you know? Yep. But in terms of, compounds, if you're using an ARB like telmisartan or something like that, I'm probably going to be apt to look more at natural supplements, or this isn't a natural supplement, but Cialis, for instance. I consider Cialis a pretty innocuous compound with very few side effects when dosed, at a moderate level. That's all. Like, I've never had to use telmisartan for more than a few weeks at a time myself, and it was always, 10 milligrams Cialis, and then I would also do a serving of a regular pump product, both morning and pre-workout, because, and people are like, what, a pump product? Isn't that supposed to jazz you up? And it's like, well, no, it's all about vasodilation. We're opening up blood vessels, whether it's agnatine sulfate and citrulline and some of the other ingredients to help increase blood flow. That would be the route I would go, and that's the route I tend to go. I want to make sure there's a healthy dose of grapeseed extract, and what's the other one? I don't know about you, but I have a list of all the supplements in case I forget of different, like for different conditions, because you get so much stuff in your head over the years. You're like, I can't possibly remember it all. So I write it down as, okay, you got this going on. Let's add this in. Oh, this supplement also covers this issue. So now we got a 2-for-1. We don't have to add more money to your stack. But do you do anything different?
Generally, I guess I always start with, I don't want to mask it. So will an ARB, they're easily prescribed. There are many different ones, right? The valsartan, losartan, telmisartan is somewhat different, but that's one. I would think, find out why your blood pressure is high, and let's just say it's chronically high. So I'm not saying 120, 130 over 80. I'm saying like 145, 150. Like, there's a problem. I want to find the root first rather than throwing something in, because the reality is, once you put those in, very rarely will your doctor, your primary care physician, ever pull them out. So just be mindful of that, right? I think ultimately, again, I see a strong correlation where if we look at lab work and a CMP and things of that nature, you're going to see poor lipid health generally, H&H through the roof, HDL probably non-existent if you're taking a ton of gear. So these are just factors to start to consider. And okay, like, what is the goal here? Am I a top-level Olympian competitor? Can I have a little bit of time to give my body a rest? Is this always the case, or is it just like maybe this last cycle I pushed it too far? Consider those things. And then the lifestyle factors, I think I look into a lot more as well, just because, again, stress and all those kind of things can mess up a lot of system processes in your body. And I think sometimes people overlook that or think they can be like Kyle and not sleep and get results and stuff like that.
The other thing, too, is growth hormone. I think everyone's running 10 plus units now, and I think that's a good first place to look at for, like, I've got a guy who's a good level pro. He's 270 plus at any given time of the year, but if we run growth hormone and his body weight's getting up to 290 plus, that BP is going through the roof. And so now we have a little rule where he's not allowed to use growth hormone, because the last thing I want is any of my athletes to get hurt. I'm not someone that's going to be having people in the hospital. One thing I do want to touch on is the last compound I do want to use is diuretics. Whether it's
right.
I just don't think it's a good policy to be on hydrochlorothiazide or furosemide or one of the other diuretics year round just to maintain your blood pressure. I think, as you were alluding to, like, let's find out the root cause. Let's figure out what can we do lifestyle factor first and supplement first before we add in more drugs. But, there are times where we have to add like an ACE inhibitor, like lisinopril or enalapril or something like that for a short-term basis, maybe when the athlete gets to their peak off-season weight,
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think, going back to what you said in the beginning of that, the growth hormone, again, I think whether it's generic or pharma, and you're taking 10, that's a substantial amount for sure. Mm-hmm. Most people, me as well, if I take growth hormone, I'm going to hold a fuck ton of water, right? So usually if someone's holding a ton of water and it's quickly, let's just say it's post-show, your blood pressure is going to go up. So just be mindful of it. And then a little hack for people as far as blood pressure goes as well. When you're testing it, make sure you get the right size cuff for your arm. So a lot of the times I'll have clients, they'll tell me the blood pressure. I'll ask them, hey, what cuff do you have? They'll send me the cuff it came with, an average size one.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, get like the large or extra large. And then they're like, hey, are you giving me a compliment? Like, no, your arms are still kind of small, but they're bigger than the average person, right? So the average size cuff that comes with many of the Amazon, CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, whatever goddamn convenience store you have, are going to be for the average person. And a lot of these people, you might not be huge, but you're bigger than the average size. So if the cuff is too small, it is going to give you a false positive in terms of how high, your blood pressure readings really are. So that is also something to be mindful of.
100%.
Another question here. I have a lot of peptide questions, so I apologize for people that have asked me peptide questions. We can do an episode on peptides, but there's 10 in a row, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. So this one is another question. This is from John Penila. Probably butchered your name. I'm sorry. What's your take on mega dosing growth hormone for show day?
Okay, so if we're talking mega dosing, I'm assuming we're talking like a bottle of Serostim, or like 18 units or something
Double
like that.
digits, yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, double digits. So both myself and John Meadows, I think, were the two that really started this. About 6-7 years ago. And John stumbled on it himself because he was in great shape at like 230. Like he was already peeled. But he knew he couldn't do the open class because he'd get killed because of his size. So he always sucked down and did the 212s. But he lost a lot of fullness, which honestly, when he'd show me the pictures, I'd be like, dude, you're still fuller than I am on a really good day. Like, what are you talking about, But with that said, he would make weight, and then he would have a nice little, he'd actually have a burger and fries, and then go to the gym and get a nice little pump workout, and then go back to clean foods. And then he would, before he'd go to bed, he'd take 36 units of Humalog or 2 bottles of Serostim. And then possibly he would do another one in the morning. And it yielded an incredibly full look while also maintaining dryness. And where I'm going with that is that I think it can be done perfectly well if you're someone that doesn't hold a lot of water off growth hormone. And the way you time it is you're not going to start holding a lot of water if you take it and then get on stage 5 hours later. You're going to get that nice initial fullness, that nice round look, but it's not going to be the point where you're holding water that it's going to be a nag on your condition level. So I'm a fan of it, and I think a lot of my athletes that I work with in the male class would say, yeah, he uses it with me. So
awesome. Okay. So there you have it, guys. I can't speak to using it much. I knew John and you had used it. I count on one hand how many people actually played with it, and it was more so literally like experimental purposes, for some bullshit show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, makes sense.
I'll say this too, though. Let me actually add this caveat because someone else asked both me and John if they should do this, and they weren't in complete condition, okay? And both of us said, no, I wouldn't do this, okay? You need to be bone dry peeled and someone that tends to ride on the flatter side if you want to get the most benefits out of it, okay? If you're already an endomorphic guy who's in shape and you have round, full muscles, I don't see the point in trying to do something that it's kind of like it's taking a shot out of left field. I wouldn't try it. But if you're a tall, lanky guy like me, it's probably not going to hurt you.
No, for sure. So I think main takeaway is try to know your response already with growth hormone. If you're someone that puts it in and you hold a ton of water and it takes you days to clear it, be mindful. Can you get 5-10% better with it? Yes, but you could also get 20% worse. So are you willing to play that game if you don't know how you respond to it? So again, best way, get in shape, get a coach, try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Next question. We have interested in both of your opinions and experiences with NPP for figure competitors, and this was from Liam Coogan 1.
Okay. It's definitely a compound I would use. It's probably not my favorite compound to use. I'm going to lead more towards the DHTs like Masteron and Primo with my figure athletes. I do know, and honestly, I think I'm a lower dose with females than a lot of people I see. I see some of these doses of cycles with NPP, like 25 milligrams 3 times a week. 75 or even, no, I'm sorry, 50 milligrams 3 times a week, 150 mgs a week, which to me that seems like, we got to understand females are not little males. You know, they have a completely different endocrine system. And I think you can get a lot by using a lot less. And I'm talking 5 to 10 milligrams a day tops on some of these compounds.
Yeah.
As far as NPP goes, though, it's probably not a compound I'm running into a show. Maybe an off-season compound to try, but I'm not running it during a contest prep.
And then to caveat off this with the question, are you going to be using that with, would you automatically presume testosterone would be in the mix? Do you keep that out for a female? How does that look?
Yeah, no, I think it's like males. Whenever you add another androgen in, you are shutting down some of the natural testosterone production. So I am going to keep a base level of testosterone in because I want to keep females in a natural optimal range of 45 to 65 nanograms per DL. For some females, that's 2 milligrams Monday and Thursday. For some, it might be 3 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You only know that based off lab work and past experience. So, yeah.
Cool. We got a few more here. This one is from Tanish_3. Why not just go trace fats and fish oils? Why keep added fat even in prep?
Say that again. So why not
This
just?
person's asking why. Maybe what's the point of using fats in the prep? Which there's many reasons why you would want fats in the prep, but the person's asking essentially why can I not just go trace fats and fish oils for my fat sources? Why do I keep added fat in prep?
Okay. So let's just assume that you're on a fish or chicken, turkey diet, right? Okay, so you're not using steak, you're not using salmon, you're not using any real animal fats. And let's just say, it's a typical guy, and I don't know how low you get your fats with some athletes, and it's not like I can say I do this because it always ends up different for everybody. But let's just say we end up somewhere around 30 to 40 grams of fats at the end of the diet, right? And let's just say, 15 of them are trace fats from the animal proteins that we are using. That means we're going to be relying on another 25 grams of fat from fish oil, which, one thing, you're going to have some digestive issues of that. Like, you're probably going to have steatorrhea. Secondarily, there is a balance that you want with omega-3s and 6s, particularly when it comes to retaining muscle mass, right? Like the omega-6s and the arachidonic acid are important for the pro-inflammatory muscle repair, activation, whereas your omega-3s are going to be better, or they're not better, that's what they do. They're deflammatory. Is that even a word? They're anti-inflammatory. So there's got to be a balance there somewhere. So I don't think it's a practical solution to try to say, okay, take 5 grams of fish oil every meal. You know what I mean? What's your take on that?
No, I think what you're saying, I use fats in refeeds. I use fats in diets for a magnitude of reasons, right? Especially with females for hormonal health.
Yeah.
The reason a lot of times females don't get their period is because they don't have any fat. The macronutrients, it's void, it's missing. They're not getting enough from the trace fat and fish oil. So for some people, I have them diet on moderate to higher fats. Sometimes I'm using it to kind of slow down their metabolic rate. I want the carbs to stick more. But in any sense, for most of the time, I'd say many contest prep diets, food's going to get pretty low. And that's across the board. Protein's going to stay somewhat moderate, even on the worst of people, right? So we really don't need a lot, but fats is what's going to come down, carbs will come down, but you don't want to be in that. That's not a place to live for a very long period of time. So maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks, sure, push it. But if you take a female and you give her 10 grams of fat and it's all trace fat and just from fish oil, she's going to have a significant problem post-show for sure, right? That's not going to be something that is I don't want to be a part of. And again, it happens. Sometimes you have to push the athlete to that magnitude, but you have to also just be very aware of how they're going to respond, how to help them through it, because you can't just say, hey, we got our hardware, we won. Talk to you later. That you're going to set them up for an awful rebound and life thereafter.
You're going to have a bad reputation from that person down the road. Oh, he screwed my hormones up. He did this and that.
Sure.
I think good coaches today they're as much involved post-show as they are pre-show, especially I kind of look at it like this, where the contest prep communication goes like this, the show happens, and then it kind of goes like that. It's like an arc, right? Because I'm having people check in twice a week, at least, post-show for several weeks, you know. And then obviously as we get deeper into the off season, okay, we don't need to communicate as much. It's more back to once a week kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of those conversations they're not about performance. They're more about hormonal repair. They're more about, adrenal fatigue. They're more about just getting them back to feeling like a normal person again and bringing some semblance of normalcy, getting their period back as soon as possible, those types of things.
We'll do one or two more here. Let's see. This is from Mikey. Thoughts on HCG with TRT, running 100 mgs of Test C a week and 700 IU of HCG a week with a daily injection of 100 IU.
I mean, I guess what is his purpose? Is his purpose to try to retain, his HPT as much as possible when he's using? Well, how much testosterone was it?
It's 100 a week and 700 of HCG. So I think it's lower than normal TRT, which is good. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know the premise of. I don't think the 700 I use HCG a week is going to really do much.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's kind of a waste of a shot, honestly. Like, I think if you want to try to really maximize your HPTA, as I would be doing 1,500 3 days a week minimum.
At least, and for at least probably 4 weeks minimum, in the worst case scenario. Yeah. Mikey, I'm not sure if you just, a lot of people, again, they'll mention, I'll see them ask, or I'll see whatever forum, they'll talk about running HCG while on cycle because they don't want their balls to shrink.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your thought process when you hear that?
I kind of do one of these, where I'm just like, I don't know, you're that vain that you want to make sure your nuts are staying. I don't know. It's kind of like, why do this then?
Exactly. I look at it like a light switch, like behind me. I'm turning the light on with AC. I'm trying to turn the light on, and then I'm also taking fucking testosterone and turning the light off.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that to your body? Pick one direction or the other. Actively go. Cool. Right?
Yeah.
So, again.
But to your point or to the question of, to try to maintain testicular size, it's like, you can kind of have one or the other, really. You can be a really good bodybuilder and see some shrinkage, or you could probably be a not so good bodybuilder, or even not a bodybuilder at all, and focus all your energy on testicular size, Yeah.
And then, here's the last question here. This person says, I love lifting, but also love eating. Fuck, me too. I struggle with binge eating. Your experiences with it?
I have zero experience with binge eating. I mean, okay, so when I was younger, sure, I liked free meals as much as the next person. As I got into my 30s, I understood them as a purpose, and I understood, how we could use them for bodybuilding, whether, increase calories around certain body parts or to elicit a fat loss response, etc. And then now that I'm in my 40s, I could care less about food. I mean, we do free meals maybe once a month, and they're extremely tame. The last free meal we had was 2 weeks ago, and it was what was it? Oh, it was a Chipotle bowl. That's a meal for most people, right? Our free meals now are typically a Chipotle bowl or a poke bowl. Something to me, a treat meal or a free meal is just something different that I don't have to make myself. That's probably still aligned with the foods I would eat in terms of cleanliness and whatnot.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I have experiences, I guess, with it from a binging standpoint to a degree, right? I think after my first show, I just ate. I was told to just eat, and I got fucking fat quickly. As far as the relationship with food, I mean, it's changed over the years, right? They're good. I love food. People that know me know I love cookies, sweets, shit like that. But you start to consider, all the hard work you put in. What's the goal, right? If you dieted your ass off, you take a guy like Evan, lost 60 pounds. Why are you trying to put it back on? You don't just gain weight accidentally. Your body could be very sensitive, and you might gain a little bit of weight, but you don't gain purely body fat to the 20% of your weight in body fat in 2 to 3 weeks without trying. I never met someone that's fat that did so without eating, right? So
that's true.
I think you just need to consider why it's happening. Is it because it's a lack of different items in your diet? If that's the case, spice it up. Make sure your food tastes good, right? A lot of times people just think bodybuilding food has to be plain chicken, plain rice. put seasonings in it. Take the time to do those things. You can use 0 calorie, low calorie sauces. Again, don't use the whole bottle of fucking meal, but make it taste good, and then add some fruit, whatever your craving is, right? So if you're a person, I like peanut butter, know what you shouldn't have in the house maybe. So if you are binge eating, and you're usually, a lot of the people that I work with that have any type of, I'll call it an eating disorder, there's like guilty pleasures. Try to remove those guilty pleasures. They're probably not going to be the most beneficial for you when it comes to sticking to it. And then again, also have that support system. Speak on it. I think it's very important to be open about it. Don't hide it from your coach. I think we're not stupid, right? So when someone,
your coach knows.
Coach knows, doesn't check in, and then all of a sudden they're up 15 pounds. It's like, hey, that's not water from the anabolics or the growth hormone, right? Yeah. Or, hey, that's not from one free meal. It's like, hey, you're having a problem. Like, what's going on? Now, again, there are other health circumstances and stuff that obviously can contribute, but my best advice, if you're really still struggling, make sure you navigate a good plan. When someone comes to me to prep, or someone comes to Andrew, if the show is on September 18th, as you guys are probably listening to this, prep in your mind has to be at least another 4 weeks. Get out of that risk. Those first couple of weeks can be super fucking detrimental and risky, or they can be very rewarding and beneficial. Don't plan a vacation at an all-inclusive resort Sunday after the show. Otherwise, again, you're probably not going to be in the best shape very quickly, and then you're going to hate life, and body fat doesn't come right off after a show, especially if you pushed super hard for 16 weeks.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that comes to mind is, we do have the advent of these great compounds now that can help you work your way through this. I've said this before, but I see compounds like retatrutide and terzepatide being probably most beneficial post-show for people that once you're off this calorie-controlled plan, and once you pass the threshold of fear of, I'm not being judged naked on stage anymore. Okay, there's no one holding me accountable. There's not 5 judges or 7 judges or my coach holding me to the same level of accountability. Sometimes these compounds definitely have their benefits, and if you don't want the let's say the insulin sensitizing and the fat loss effects, there's other compounds like I don't know if you ever use cagrilintide. Do you ever use that one?
It's like you're saying that's not metformin, but it plays off the same kind of thing.
It's a lot of people call it GLP-4. So it doesn't hit the GLP-1 or the GLP-2 pathway or the glucagon pathway. It hits the amylin pathway in the brain, which affects appetite control exclusively, and kind of it's really just the food noise quieting drug out there. I've used it with several people, especially females, and it works pretty darn well. And it's nice to find a compound that doesn't have side effects that elicits the result that you want.
No, absolutely. So I'm a big proponent on the Reta. That's in my fridge. People know I am reversing. It's helpful, to say the least. Doesn't eliminate the thoughts of me wanting to still eat certain foods, but again, you start to think of why you're doing this, what is the goal, and the biggest takeaway, I think, if you're someone that was dieting to get in shape, and now you're having that issue, which again, I don't know if this person was dieting or they just have a binge eating issue. Always have a goal, right? If you just had a goal of doing the show and the show's over, as you mentioned, there's no one holding you accountable, and the show comes and goes. Life is going to continue. Always have something you want to achieve next, right? Have that already in place. Don't leave yourself. Andrew, you probably get some clients that sign up with you after a show. Maybe they had a different coach.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I compete this Saturday, but I'm going to sign up in 2 weeks. I tell that person, no.
Sign up.
Like, you're going to sign up right away because I don't trust you. No offense. I don't know you as far as I can throw you. So, I don't know.
Well, no, to your point, let's start the Sunday after the show, because I don't want to be playing someone else's cleanup for after a week of you effing off and doing what you want. It's not a good place. It's not a good place for us to start a relationship, for one thing. I think, like you said, having a plan post-show is key. And I think the more you can get your athletes, and if you're a competitor listening, the more you can start thinking that prep isn't just the 16 or 20 week prep. Like, it's your lifestyle. You're a bodybuilder, and you do not want to be accumulating tons of fat, because what you do right now matters for the next off season and for the next contest prep. And with that said, I think we're done with our questions.
Yes.
Guys, leave us some more questions for the next show. Leave us some comments. Please like the show. Send it to your friends. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when we release. As you guys know, we release on Thursdays at 9 a.m. We're going to try to stick to that. And with that, we're Unwracked. Thank you.